Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Aishwaryatube and today I'm back with yet another video for you guys. This is the part 2 of ChatGPT API integration with a MERN app. So in the previous video, we have integrated a NodeJS backend API that calls the ChatGPT's API and gets the response. So if you haven't watched the previous video, I would urge you to watch that first because that's the part 1 of this particular series. It's not a series as such. There are just 2 videos and this is the last and second video wherein we will be coding the front end part. So here we will use MUI and Vite in order to set up a front end that will call a customized Node.js API and get the response from it. And this was sort of like a homework for you. So if you remember in our last video, I mentioned towards the end that you should try out setting up a front end yourself. So you should try setting up a Vite application and then connecting it with your Node.js backend and getting the response from it. So if you can display the response onto your screen, it means that you have been successful in doing so. Okay. Now, if you want to try this on your own, even before watching the video and without any assistance, then I believe you should pause the video right here and try creating a React application first and try using the previous Node.js API that we created in the last video and getting the response and showcasing it on your screen. So if you can do it successfully, well and good. If not, then this video will help you to do that. Now, if you're interested, then we can get started with today's video, shall we? So the first thing that we need is to create a Vite application. Now in our previous video, what we have done is we have created the server folder and we have also created the client folder. But the client folder is empty as of now. So inside the client folder, we will have our Vite setup. Okay, Vite or Vite, so whatever the right pronunciation is. Now for this, I'm using their documentation. So this is their documentation. Okay, vitejs.dev. So if you go here, you can click on getting started and you will get this particular doc. You can just scroll down and this is what you need to use if you're using npm. If you're using yarn, then you can just say yarn create Vite. Now I'm using npm, so I will copy this down and I will open my terminal here. Make sure that you're in the client directory, so cd to your client directory and then paste the command. Now it will ask for a project name. Now in this case, we are not giving any project name as such because we are not creating a project folder from scratch. We already have the client folder. All we need to do is put in all the files inside the client folder. So I will just say a dot. I will mention a dot because this dot says that all the other files that are created by Vite will be inside the client folder. Okay. And here we are using React, so we'll select React here. We are not using TypeScript, we are just using plain JavaScript, so I will select JavaScript and then done. So you can see that inside the client folder I have other folders, and this is the minimal structure that you can get in a React app. So if you create a React app using npx create React app, then there will be other things that are not really relevant, but because of Vite you can get like the most minimal things that you need in order to successfully run a React application. Okay. Now they have also given you these commands that you can use and we will use them. The first command is npm install, which means that everything that you have installed here, this is in package.json, right? So there are some dev dependencies, there are some dependencies that are mentioned in package.json, but we haven't installed them right now. We don't have them in our project. So you need to run npm install in order to install all the dependencies that you have mentioned in package.json that have just come all of a sudden because we have created a Vite. So you need to install those dependencies in order to run your project successfully. So let's do that first. npm install. Just be sure that you're inside the client directory. Hit enter and this will start installing all the dependencies. So we are done installing all the dependencies. The next command that we need to run is npm run dev. So npm run dev is running the application, okay, on a particular port. So the port for Vite is 5173. So all we will do is control and click. Okay, so this is the app which is running successfully. I think so. If you click on this, the count increases, which means that our setup is correct. Okay, we have done our setup correctly. No need to worry about that. But this is not something that we want to show on our front end. So we will clear all the template code and keep it clean. So let's quickly do that. So first of all, those who don't know how this works, now you can skip this part, but those who don't know how exactly things are getting rendered on your browser, it's very simple. You have one index.html file. Inside the index.html file, there's just one root. Okay, there's a div that has an ID of root, and this div is responsible for anything and everything that you see on your screen. But how will we know where this div is used, right? So there's another file called main.jsx. This is automatically created by Vite, and inside main.jsx, if you see, then we have written plain JavaScript wherein we are getting that particular element by its ID. Okay, we are getting that div element by its ID, and the name of the ID is root, and we are rendering this element. So basically on your screen, whatever you see is the div element that has an ID of root, and this is something that we render. Okay, this is something that we render. We attach the components that we have in our application to this element. Okay, app is a component. It's like any other React component which is created right here, and whatever we could see on our screen right now after running npm run dev, it's everything which is written inside app, because right now we don't have any more components, right? This is the only component. You can see, click on the Vite and React logos to learn more. The same thing is visible right here. Click on the Vite and React logos to learn more. Okay, so this is your JSX syntax. Now if you don't know what JSX is, I feel you need to do a little bit of research. In the description box below, I will leave a few links wherein you can read about what JSX is. It's basically, in simple words, a mixture of JavaScript and HTML. It's a syntax that can allow you to write both JavaScript and HTML for better productivity and to save time. And it is understood by the browser. Okay, you have something known as a Babel transpiler. It's not a compiler, it's a transpiler. You can read about Babel as well. So Babel helps you to convert the JSX into something which is understood by the browser, because JSX is not understood by the browser. And the syntax which is written here, which looks a bit weird because there are HTML tags and there's also JavaScript written within it, this syntax is nothing but JSX. Okay, so this was like a brief about what we are doing. This is for those who don't know how to use React, or this is for those who are using Vite for the first time. Okay, now that we are done with this, what we will do is we will clean up some of the code. So we will remove all of this, and we will just have one div that will say hello world. We started with hello world, right? We started our programming journey with hello world. Now one more thing, we have imported a file called app.css, and it's of course a CSS file, and you can see that there is some CSS written inside the file, but we are not going to use this. Okay, so I can just clear all of this CSS. I'll just say Control A and clear that. So with this, we won't have any more CSS. And you can see that we are not using these logos. We are not using any React logo, nor are we using any Vite logo. So I will just clear that as well. So I'm only importing app.css. As of now, it is empty, so you won't find anything. But eventually when we add our CSS, that CSS will be used for this entire application. Okay, so with this we are done, and whatever is inside the app component will be shown or displayed here. Okay, so as such, we are not changing anything inside the index.jsx file. We are not changing anything here. We are changing stuff in app.jsx file. And I just realized that the main.jsx file, not index, sorry, the main.jsx file has something known as index.css. And for this project, our CSS is going to be very minimal. Okay, we are only using the app component. We are not making another component. So what I will do is I will just delete this file because I don't need it. Okay, I only need the index.css file, which I will clear. So I will clear the index.css file and delete the app.css file, because we are using basic CSS for this project. Okay, and you don't need multiple CSS files for that. All of this is needed, so we are not touching main.jsx. app.jsx is fine. Inside the assets folder you have a React svg, but you don't need this React svg for now, so I will delete that as well. And inside the public folder you have Vite svg, which you don't need, of course. This is the Vite logo, so you can delete this as well. And now we have sort of cleaned our code. So I will, and by the way, the server is running, okay? Anytime when you save something, the server will continue to run. You don't need to again and again type npm run dev in order to spin the server. And one more thing that I realized is I'm importing app.css, but since I've deleted the file, I no longer need this. So I will just erase this, okay? And the CSS file has already been imported inside the main.jsx file, so I don't need to worry about CSS, okay? All the CSS that I'm writing will be imported in this file, and that will also be applicable to the app.jsx file. With this, we will check if, yeah, so we have it here, okay? You can see hello world here. It means that our setup was successful. Now we can start with our application. So as you have seen at the start of this video, I've shown you on how the application looks like. So we are trying to use the same colors as ChatGPT. So it has this, gray come black color as the background, and it has this greenish color that will be used for the button. So we will try to use ChatGPT's logo as well and give it the feel and vibes of our existing ChatGPT. So let's do that. Before that, let's go to our application and into our index.css file. Let's just say this is the universal selector, and here I will say margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing border box. Okay, so I'm doing this because the browser also has its internal inherent styles which it applies, and I don't want those styles. Okay, I want them to start from scratch. Basically, I want to start from scratch. I want the margins to be 0, I want the padding to be 0, and I don't want any elements to have extra width. That's why I'm saying box sizing border box. So any width that I'm supplying, only that width should be taken by each and every element. No element should come up with its inherent default width. Okay, so that is why I've done this in the universal selector. Apart from that, I also want the body to have that grayish black color that I was talking about, which is very similar to what ChatGPT has. So I will just say body. I will target the body tag, and I will give it a background color of 343541. Okay, so if I save this and if I go back to my app, you can now see that we do have hello world here, but it has that grayish black color that I'm talking about that resonates with ChatGPT's grayish black color. Okay, now you will also display ChatGPT's logo. So somewhere here we will have ChatGPT's logo, and then you will have a button that will say ask me anything. On click of the button, we will open a modal, and inside the modal we will drop our query and get the response. Okay, this is what we are trying to do. Very simple. So let's build our HTML for now. So let's go into app.jsx, and this div is the main div. So let's give it a class name of app. Now inside this div, I will have an image and I will also have a button. Okay, one below the other. So I will use the image tag, and I will have a button. Now inside the image, I need to provide the source, right? Now this is nothing but ChatGPT's logo, but we don't have logo defined anywhere. So we'll do one thing. We will use our image inside this asset folder. Okay, so I have it saved somewhere. I have it saved here. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll go into downloads and just move this here. So this is ChatGPT's logo. It's a transparent logo. Okay. Now inside app.jsx, I need to import this logo. So I will just say import logo from assets/ChatGPT logo.png. Okay, now everything is set. Let's see whether I can see the image. Yeah, this is the image. Okay, I can see the image here. Now you will be like, what is this dot here? What is this dot doing? Because we are not using any dot, right? So remember that we have used a button tag, so it's that button, and that button doesn't have any text yet. That's why it's just showing as a dot. So here you can just say ask me anything. So now if you save and if you go back, you will be able to see the logo and the button. Now you need to center align them. So the logo should be somewhere here and the button should be here. Okay, just beneath the logo. So in order to center align them, we will give them flex property, right? So now let's go into the CSS. But before that, let's give them some class names. Okay, so here I will give the button a class name of btn. Okay, done. And let's go into index.css. So first of all, app should have display flex and flex direction column, because I want them one below the other, and I also want the items to be centered. So I will say align items center. Yeah, so let's see how it looks like. See, something like this. I want it exactly this way. Okay, now the logo is fine, I feel, but I want to style the button a little better. So let's go into our app and let's target the button. So btn is the class that we gave the button, and let's just give it a background color of 159977, which is a green color. Okay, you can see this green color which is matching ChatGPT's green color. So this is the background color. Of course, I will change the color to a white shade, which is ECF1. Okay, so this is a white shade that I'm giving it. I'm giving it some border radius and making it a bit curved. Cursor pointer, and let's give it some padding as well. So let's give it 15 pixels padding from the top and bottom, and a little bit extra from the sides, and border none. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, so it's looking good. I like it, but I feel that the font is too small right now. So let's give it some font size of 20 pixels, and let's give it font weight of 400 maybe. Let's see how this looks like. Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking better instantly. We can do one more thing. We can decrease the size of our logo so that this is not at the bottom. Okay, that you can do. I feel that you can do in your capacity. I like it this way. If you want, you can decrease the size of the logo, target the logo, decrease the height of the logo and the width as well, so that they are of the same sizes, and later you can bring this button on top. But as of now, I like the way this is. I don't want to make any changes. Now we can move ahead with integrating MUI components, because in order to create the model, I want a model component from MUI. So if you don't know what MUI is, MUI stands for Material UI. Material UI is a React library that gives you components, like ready-made components, which you can use in your day-to-day coding and save time. So in this case, I will be using their modal component. So all I need to do here is to install Material UI. So I'll go to their docs and go here, Material UI. Okay, so click on installation, and this is what you need. Okay, default installation with style components. We are not using style components, so you don't need style components. So this is the command that you need, default installation. Okay, so I'll just copy this, and I'll create a new terminal because I don't want to shut down my server. Just remember to go to the client folder again, and then paste the command that you have copied from Material UI, and let this download. Till then, we can discover the Material UI library and explore it. Basically, not discover, explore it. We already have discovered it. If you want to use icons by Material UI, then you can use this as well. I'm pretty sure icons material wasn't here, right? Yeah, we didn't install any icons. So if you want to use Material UI icons explicitly, you can use this command. For now, what I want is a modal, because I want to integrate a modal. So for that, you can search for any component that you want, and here you get a basic modal. So first, go through a basic modal, discover it, see how it looks like. Now here you can see we have a button similar to our button. Even we have a button, right? We don't have any on-click property as such on the button, but here you can use an on-click property, and you can call a function called handle open. You can name it anything and everything, but let's keep it handle open in our case as well. And once you click on this particular function, you will open up this modal, right? You will open up this modal. This modal has a box component. Like a box component in MUI is similar to a div component. Okay, very simple. And then we have something known as typography. So typography stands for any textual content that you want to display. Okay, either it can be a heading tag or a paragraph tag, all of that comes into typography. So let's say you want to say drop your questions. Okay, you want the heading to be drop your questions, and then you want an input tag wherein you will drop your query, and you can use typography there. So for now, what we will do is we will blindly copy this basic modal that they have given us. We'll copy this down, and this is for JavaScript. Okay, if you want to change this, into TypeScript, you can click here and switch it to TypeScript. You will get the equivalent TypeScript code. Okay, this is the equivalent TypeScript code. It's pretty simple, pretty basic, but yeah, for now we are using JavaScript. So I have copied the code already. I will come here, and in my app.jsx, after the button, because remember the code was, everything was after the button, right? So everything is proper now. Now you can see that we have two button elements. We don't require two button elements. Just remember that we require this on click property on this button as well. But for now, I'm removing this button. Okay, that button was from MUI. I don't require their button because I already have one using HTML. I just require their modal component, and I have it now. If you carefully observe, we have something known as open. Now this is a state. It's a Boolean variable. So when open will be true, your modal will be visible. When open is false, your modal won't be visible. Simple. Okay. So let's make a state first, because before showing it to you how it looks, I want to show you like proper functioning of the modal. Okay. So I'll be able to show you exactly how a modal works after creating a state. So we all know how to create a state, right? So const open and set open. Done. Okay, open and set open. Set open is a function. Open is a variable. It is a Boolean variable. We are not using TypeScript, so we are not specifying what type of variable it is. But while initializing it, we are using useState, by the way. While initializing it, the default starting value of open will be false, right? The starting value of open is false because we don't want a modal right at the beginning. Okay, this is how it looks like. Now we will use that on click function right here, because I want my modal to be opened only when I click on the button, only when I click on this ask me anything button. So this on click function will allow me to change the state of my open variable. The open variable which was false at the beginning will now turn into true after clicking the button. Okay, simple, very simple. So this open variable will have a function called handle open. Okay, I know that we don't have any function handle open as of now, so we will create one, const handle open. Okay, and all we are doing inside this function is I'm setting the open variable to true, because when the open variable is true, only that time our modal will appear. Done. Simple. One more thing which is not mentioned here is handle close. Handle close is another function which is not there. We don't have it, right? So it will throw an error. So it's very important that we define the handle close function. Const handle close. Okay, this function will be similar to handle open. All we have to do is set this to false again. It's self-explanatory, right? Handle open will open the model, handle close will close the model. Simple. So let's see whether this works. It's not working. Okay, so it's not working because we haven't imported model, we don't have box, we don't have typography. So typography. Okay, so it's not working. Okay, so it's not working because we haven't imported model, we don't have the box component, we also don't have typography, right? So we need to import it from somewhere. So let's go here and let's see how to import it. Okay, can you see this? Typography, model, box, all of that comes from MUI material. Let's copy this and paste it right here. Okay, and I will remove this. I'm not explicitly importing it. Basically it's not a default import. Okay, I will use this, so I will just say model and typography and box. These are the only three things that I'm using, I believe. Yeah, now this should work. No. Okay, so the issue is here we have an SX property, and to this we are giving something known as style, but style is not defined. We don't have any object named style, right? So we will remove this and then go back, and now it works. Okay, it works perfectly, but we need to check the functioning of our model. So after clicking on this button, you can see this, right? This opens up. See, after clicking on this button, this opens up. It's not visible on a black background because the content is also black in color, so it's not visible on a black background, but you can see an overlay, right? You can see some overlay, and that only happens after clicking on this button. If you click somewhere outside, it closes, which is something that we want. So we'll do one thing, we'll design our model a bit better. So let's give it some class names. So the first thing we will do is give this model a class name. The class name can be ChatGPT model. This is the main model. And I will also give a class name to the box. Okay. So that class name can be container, because it is a container inside the model. Okay. Box is a container inside the model, and within the box, whatever we have should be aligned one below the other. So I need to give it a flex property, but the flex direction property should be column, because everything should be aligned one below the other. Okay, so let's give this CSS. So in index.css, I can target ChatGPT model. What I can say is, because there's only one box, okay, the parent of that box should be aligned in the middle, okay, in the center. So vertically also in the center and horizontally also in the center. So for that reason, I will give it a flex property so that the box is aligned in the center. Okay, so display flex, and I will say align items center so that it is vertically centered, and justify content center so that it's horizontally centered. Done. Now I want to see my model. I want to see how my model looks like, because as of now it just has an overlay. So let's make the model white in color. Container, I will target container, which is nothing but the box. Okay, the container class name is given to the box. I will give it a background color of white, so FFFF. Okay, and then let it have a good amount of border radius, which is 12 pixel, and maybe the width should be 60% of its parent. Okay, the parent is taking the full width. I want this model to only take 60% of the width. It shouldn't take my entire screen, only 60%. Okay, and I also want it to have some padding because it shouldn't touch the edges, so 20 pixels. Done. So now we'll see how this looks like. I hope I've saved it. Yep. So ask me anything, this is how it looks like. Okay, you can see that this is your main container, this is your model. If you click anywhere outside, the handle close function will be called. That handle close callback function that we have written, that will be called, your open state will change to false and your modal will disappear. Okay, so this is how your modal works. Like, you have understood the functioning. Now let's get started and see how we can style everything that comes inside the modal. Okay, so firstly, let's go back to our app.jsx, and here we need a typography tag. We will say drop your questions. Drop your questions. I want this D to be capitalized, and drop your questions. Okay, this will be our modal title, and we will have a form tag. I don't want any more paragraph tags. I don't want anything else, like any more content. So what we will do is we will have a form tag. Okay, inside the form tag I have an input field and a button. Okay, input field and a button. So to do that, we will go back to MUI, because we need to know how to use an input field, right? So there's something known as text field demos. Okay, there's something known as text field that you can import, and you'll get like a basic text field somewhere here. Form control and text field. Okay, so this is something that we want, right? You can try out what type of text field you want to use. Now here I'm showing you all of this using the documentation. I'm not directly coding in VS Code, because that's not how I want to teach you. If you want to learn coding, you need to go through their documentation. Otherwise, just by watching YouTube videos, you're not gonna learn how to code on your own. Okay, that's why I'm going through the documentation along with you, because my job is not to just show you videos and not to just show you tutorials. Even if there are no tutorials, you should be able to crack this out. If you want to use some other type of input tag, let's say if you want to use this input tag, you need to know from where you need to fetch this. Okay, for example, here they have given you examples. Everything is readily available on the internet. All you need to do is search. Give the right prompts to Google, just like you do with ChatGPT. Okay, the efforts that you use into writing your prompts for ChatGPT, use those efforts in writing a search query for Google as well. Okay, now you can see that this is a basic text field, right? This one. Then in case you want to use an input tag that looks like this, then you can use this particular snippet. Or if you want to use this input tag, then use the third snippet. Now for us, we want the first one. I'm using the basic one. Okay, so I will just copy this, copy it, go back to VS Code, paste it here. Done. Just indent it correctly. I'll keep everything same, but I'll just add one button, because I need to submit my form, right? There should be a submit button. So the type is submit, and class name will be button. Okay, the same class name that I gave to the first button. So the styling will remain the same, and here I will just say submit. That's it. So I will go back. Yeah, I'll go back here and I'll check how this looks like. There's some problem. Okay, the problem is we didn't import text field. So anytime that you paste any code, just make sure that you're importing it. Okay, yes, everything is correct. And now you can see we have a text field here, but I didn't want it to look like this. I want the input tag and the button to be one below the other, so I need to give it some flex property. Let's go back and we'll go into the CSS file, and actually no need to go into the CSS file. Inside the form tag here itself, we can add the style property. Okay, so here we can just say display flex and flex direction. Flex direction should be column, because I want everything one below the other. So flex direction should be column, and align items should be center, because I want the button to be in the middle. So align items center. So let's see how it looks now. Okay, it looks good, it looks better, but I want this input tag to take the entire width of the parent. I don't want it to be this small. Okay, the text field should take the entire width, and also there should be some margin on the top and the bottom. So let's do that. I have this text field, and instead of giving it a class name and giving it some special styling, we can use sx. Okay, sx, something like this, and using this sx you can give your styling. So when we say sx, now we can say margin. So remember that sx property takes an object, so this is the object that you're passing. Okay, that's why there are two curly braces that you're seeing here. There are two curly braces here because sx takes an object. So inside the object I'm passing margin. Margin should be 15 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 pixels on the side. um, and I also need the width to be 100%, right? Because it should take the entire width of the parent. Now let's see how it looks like. Perfect. It looks good. Now one more thing that you might have noticed here is that it has this outlined placeholder, right? But I don't need this outlined placeholder. So what we will do is we will change this into query. So instead of outlined, we will say query. So how can we change this? You have this label property, right? So this is your text field and you have this label property. All you need to do is change this to query. Okay, hit save, and now you can see it has been changed to query. Looks good, feels good. All we have to do is type in our query, submit, and then ChatGPT will give us a response here. Okay, now in order to keep track of your query, you need a state. This is an input tag. We know how to set a state for an input tag. Okay, so you need a state to keep track of the content that you're typing here. So let's create one state. And by the way, that state will be prompt. So we'll say const prompt set prompt, and I will say initially we don't have any prompt, so it is empty. I'll give it an empty string, and to the text field, this is the text field, right? The value of that text field will be prompt. So whenever my state is changing, the current value of the state will be assigned to text field. Okay, now whenever our state is changing, we need an on change property as well, right? So on change of my input tag, I will change my state. So here I will give like a function that says set prompt, and here I will say e dot target dot value. Okay, so any value which is currently there in my input tag, that will be the value of the prompt. So I'm setting my prompt basically. Done. So with this I have a state in place. Now I need a handle submit function. So on submit of this particular form, I will run the handle submit function. Okay, we have a button that has a type of submit. So we know that we are submitting the form after clicking on the button, after clicking on the submit button. So all you need to do is you need to use another property of on submit. This will be the forms property. Okay, and here you are passing a function called handle submit. We haven't created the handle submit function here, but we will soon create that one. Okay, so let's go on top and create a handle submit function. Done. Now one more thing that I wanted to tell you here is that when we submit a form, the default behavior of a form is to refresh, right? Form will always refresh. So in order to stop the form from refreshing, all we need to do is pass this event. E stands for event. Okay, so pass this event right here. Scroll on top, and here catch the event and say event dot prevent default. So when you say e.prevent_default or event.prevent_default, it means that we prevent the default behavior of the form of refreshing again and again, because we don't want the page to refresh, right? We don't want the page to refresh. So using e.prevent_default, you're preventing that action. That's it. Okay. Now the main logic of our front end will be inside this handle submit function. Okay, we will connect with our backend using this handle submit function, and we will use a package known as Axios. So you might have used Axios before. In order to install this, just run this command npm I Axios. Okay, so we are using Axios in order to connect with our Node.js backend, and I'll just show you the endpoint. So for that, I will open Postman, because last time in our last video we did hit an API, right? So we will have our endpoint there. What we will do is we will create two states. The first state will save the response. The first state is for the response, and the second state is for your loading, like the time it takes to load and then return the response to you, right? So the first state will be a response state. The function will be set response use state, and at first the response is empty, right? And the second state will be a loading state, which will be of course a boolean state. At first I'm not calling the API, so at first I will have loading as false, so the default value of loading will be false. These are the two states that we have created. So this is it, and now we will look at Postman here. This is the endpoint that I'm hitting, right? My server will be running on port 3000, and the backend API endpoint is /chat, and this is the prompt that I'm passing as a JSON. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now one thing that I realized is our server is not running, so we won't be able to test our API. So let's open another terminal, and here we will go into server, and here we will run npm start. Now with this, our server will also start running. We are spinning our server, and this will run on port 3000. So in Postman, if I send this, I'm getting a response. Okay, if I send this, then I'm getting a response. My prompt was who is the best Indian cricketer, and here I have some examples: Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Sunil Gavaskar. And this is the same response that I got last time in my last video as well. So again, this is a reminder, if you haven't watched the previous video, I'm urging you to watch it, because everything that I'm gonna do from now onwards is related to the previous video. So what we will do is we will just copy the endpoint from here, and I will call this particular endpoint. Okay, where will I do that? Inside the handle submit function. So here, firstly, I will say const res equals await Axios, because Axios will fulfill the promise and then give me the response, right? So it works on the basis of promises, so I need to await for that process to complete. So Axios.post, it will be a post request. Of course, on Postman also you can check, it's a post request. So the endpoint is this. I will just copy paste the endpoint, and I need to pass a prompt, right? And I need to pass it in a JSON. So I already know what my prompt is, correct? I already know what my prompt is because it is saved in a state, but that is just plain text. It is just content, right? I need to pass it as an object. So here I can pass it as an object. So I can say prompt. I'll give the object a key of prompt, and then the value will be prompt. So if you notice here, this is the key. Okay, this is the key, but this prompt is equal to the state. Okay, this prompt is equal to this state that I'm talking about. Now using ES6, you can simplify this syntax. So instead of saying prompt : prompt, you can just write prompt. This is it. Now one more thing that we need to do here, we are getting an error for await, and that's because await can be used in an asynchronous function, but we are not defining this handle submit function as an asynchronous function. So let's do that. Okay, now it won't give me any error. Done, everything is done. So I have the response for now, I need to set my response. Set my response to res. Done. So I'm using the set response state as well. And one more thing that I need to do here is just before calling the API, I need to set loading as true, right? Because just before calling the API, my loading will be true, right? It will start loading basically. So set loading, this should be true. I need to set this as true, and once I receive the response, I need to set loading as false, because now I have loaded anything and everything that I wanted, so I will set it back to false. Clear? Now one more thing that I need to do here is import Axios, right? I'm using Axios but I'm not importing it, so I won't be able to use it and it will throw an error. So say import Axios from Axios. Yeah, okay, save it. And now the next thing that you need to do is just console.log res. Okay, see if you are getting the response in your console. If you are getting it, then you can proceed ahead with the next steps. Otherwise you need to debug what went wrong during the API call. Okay, so we'll go back and I will just say which is the most powerful programming language, and I will submit this. But before that, I will open my Chrome developer tools and I'll open the console tab. Okay, now I'll hit submit, and here you can see that I've received the response. Now you will take some time in receiving the response, but you will get it nonetheless. You're taking time because ChatGPT's model is an advanced model. You're using the GPT 3.5 turbo model if I'm not wrong, and it takes a bit of processing time. If you use their basic model, which is Text DaVinci, so previously I had used that model Text DaVinci and it used to give a faster result. So if you want a quicker result, you can use a model which is not really accurate or not really computationally heavy. But this is a computationally heavy model, that's why it takes a bit of time to give you a response, but it has given it nonetheless. It has given an object which is my response, and inside that I have a data key, and that has my answer. Okay, by the way, I'm connecting to my Node.js backend API, not to ChatGPT's API. Okay, this is the response which Node.js has given me. My customized Node.js API has given me. Now, what we will do is we will create a simple component. I know that we don't require a component, okay, but I'm just creating one because I want to take the feel of creating a React application. Right now what we have is not really a full-fledged React application. Basically it's not using the power of React except a few hooks that we have used. So let's create another folder under src, which is your components folder, though we will have only one component under this. Okay, so inside this components folder, just create one file named gptresponse.jsx. Okay, here I will use RAFCE and I will get this. Okay, so I'm just creating a component just for the sake of it. You can do everything within the app.jsx file, no worries. Okay, do everything within the app.jsx file, that is fine. So what I basically want to do is, when I get the response, okay, when I'm getting the response right here, when I'm setting my response, after that I want to show my GPT response component, which will display my component. Okay, GPT response will display my component. So after I'm done with the form, I will say if I have the response, if I've got the response, then you display this GPT component that I've created. But to this component, I need to pass something, right? I need to pass the response. So in here, I'm passing the response as a prop. And now all you need to do is go here and destructure this. So destructure the props object, you will get response from here. And now we know that the answer is not inside the response object. The answer is inside a data key. You need to access that, right? So what you will do is you will say const res. You will create a separate variable saying const res equals response dot data. Okay, const res equals response dot data. Clear? So with this you have your answer and you need to showcase that answer inside this div, right? you want to display that answer inside this div. So I will just say res. Let's see whether this works. Okay, so let's go back, and yeah, it works. See, which is the most powerful programming language? There is no single answer to this question, as the most powerful programming language can vary depending on the context and the specific requirements of a project, blah blah blah. So you get the answer right here. Let's change the question. So if I change the question and if I say, is JavaScript worth learning? I'm just asking lame questions, but excuse me here. So I've submitted my query, but I think so it will take some time. Yeah, it takes some time to get updated. As I said, the model that we are using is a computationally heavy model, but we have got an answer nonetheless. So it says that yes, JavaScript is worth learning, is definitely worth learning. It is the most widely used programming language for web development and has become an essential skill for front-end and back-end web development. Now, one more announcement that I want to make here is that if you're interested in front-end and back-end web development using JavaScript, I'll soon be releasing a series on my channel, like it's a playlist on my channel, wherein I will start from scratch, because I want all the students, all the learners to not get distracted for other resources. So I don't directly want to start with React. I won't start with React, or I won't start with Node.js directly, because then there will be questions as to what is Express, what is HTML, what is CSS, how did you use this property, what does this attribute do. So because there will be such questions, I'm starting with HTML first. So everything will be taught to you from scratch. How the internet works, what is front end, what is back end, what is full stack, what is MERN, what is mean, are there any other stacks that we can use? All of that will be discussed in this playlist. And my aim is to have complete web development on YouTube for you to learn for free. You shouldn't be searching for any more resources, either for blogs, or okay, you can read blogs, but you shouldn't be searching for any more resources outside my playlist. I want to make my playlist that detailed. So each and every detail that is useful in web development in companies will be taught to you from scratch. Okay, so if you're at all interested, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and press that bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Okay, so that was a bit of promotion that I've done. I didn't plan it. It just happened organically. So with this, we know that we are getting the response, but I don't like the way the response is shown, right? So let's add some colors and let's make this beautiful. Okay, the logic part is done, by the way. One part is left, the loading part is left. Okay, the loader, we haven't included any loader yet, but before that, let's include some CSS. Okay, let's go back. Before going into index.js, I need to give this some class name, right? So let's give this div a class name of response. Okay, simple enough. And let's go into index.css and target the response class name. So first of all, I'll give it a background color of that black background color. Okay, that grayish black background color, 343541, and I will change the color to the white color, ECF1, and I will give it some border radius, which will be similar to what we have given the model, which is 12 pixel. I'll also add some margin, I think so 15 pixels and 0. So 15 pixels from the top and bottom and 0 from the sides. What else? Padding we can add, padding of 20 pixels we can add. Okay, I feel this is it. Let's go back, and this is how it looks, and it looks good enough. Okay, it looks good enough. However, I don't like the font, so what we can do is we can go to Google Fonts and use some good font from Google. I think so I will use the font Inter, because I like that font, Inter. I also like Poppins, but let's use Inter for this particular project. Uh, uh, let's pick up regular 400. Okay, regular 400, semi bold 600, and medium 500. I don't think we need anything else apart from these. And I will just delete pop-ins. I will just pick up inter, and these three link tags I will add in a index.html file. Remember this index.html file that I showed you at the beginning? So here you can paste the links, okay, and format it properly. Done. So now you have the links with you. All you need is this font family. So my plan is to add this font family in the universal selector itself. Okay, now let's see how this looks like. Which is the most powerful programming language. Now hopefully the font family of the response should also change. And yeah, it has changed. It looks good, right? This looks good. I feel we need some more margin here because it looks cluttered. So let's make the margin 20 pixels. Instead of 15, let's make it 20 pixels. Correct? Done? So this is perfect. But there's one more thing that I noticed. Let's say we are asking ChatGPT to write a mail. Okay, so write a mail to your manager to avail a leave. Okay, submit. Because when we write mails, we leave lines, right? We leave a lot of lines. We first start with the designation, then we start with the first para, second para, and then there's regards, thanks, and then your name. So basically, while writing a mail, there are many lines that we leave, and that should be captured. When you actually converse with your browser ChatGPT, you can see it visually that it is leaving lines, and this model should also be able to leave lines. So here you can see it's not leaving lines. If you carefully observe, here it's not leaving any lines. Everything is written like back to back, right? But this is not how we got the response. This is not how we got the response, and I'll prove this to you. So here what I will do is I will just console.log the response that I'm getting. Okay, and I'll open the console, and here you can see it. I guess, yeah, you can see it. Dear manager's name. Of course, don't just copy paste all of this in your email and then send it, because I saw a post on LinkedIn wherein someone just copied the response that was given by ChatGPT and pasted it and sent the mail, something like that, along with these placeholders. So please change these placeholders, and you can see that the response that we are getting has lines that are left. Okay, there are spaces, but those spaces are not accommodated in our response. So in order to do that, we use a CSS property, a secret CSS property, which is not really used a lot of times, but because you're watching this video, now you know about this. And that CSS property is white space pre-rep. Okay, so basically all the white spaces, the lines that are left, the spaces that are inherently present in your response, those will be preserved. So you're preserving your white spaces using this particular property. Okay, understood? Now if I go back, you'll be able to see all those lines. So your response will be exactly similar to what ChatGPT provides you. So now you can see that we are leaving lines and our content is looking well split, but there's no scroll bar here. Okay, we don't have any scroll bar to scroll, and this is the problem with MUI's component. So I found a Stack Overflow thread which is addressing the same problem, wherein he is facing a difficulty to scroll using the modal. Okay, they are using the modal component, but when the content increases, now in this case we have a lot of content, right? And there are more paragraphs even after this. So when the content increases, they are finding it difficult to scroll. You can go through this particular thread. The thread is how to make material UI model and dialog scrollable. I will leave this thread in the description as well, so that you can go through this. But as of now, the solution for this is come back to your VS Code, and then inside ChatGPT model you use flex wrap, so that if in case we overflow, then we are doing it within the flex box. And then you can just say overflow y scroll. You're giving the scroll property in the y direction. But once you do this, you will realize that okay, you can scroll, but you don't have any margin, right? You have just given flex and then align item center and justify content center to the model. There is no margin given to the model. There's just padding that you have given, but that is to the box inside the model. So you haven't provided any margin property. So let's give it some margin so that there's some margin at the top and some at the bottom, and it's not sticking to the grayish black background. So I will just say margin 30 pixels maybe, and 0 on the sides. Yeah, so this is how it looks like. Okay, this is how it looks right now. So if the content increases, then this is how it will look. If the content doesn't increase, so let's say, is JavaScript worth learning? So the answer to this was pretty short. So if the content doesn't increase, then you don't need to worry. This is what you will get. Okay, so with this we are almost done. All we have to do is use a loader. So when we hit submit, right, when we hit submit, there is some loading time, and in this case the loading time is a lot because of the model that we are using. So we will showcase a loader, we will displace a loader during that time, so that our user knows that the API call is happening and we are fetching the result. Now for this, you can go back to MUI, and there's something known as progress. So in your like left navigation bar, you will see this components which will be right under getting started, and inside components there will be a progress key. So click on this progress and you will get multiple loaders. So either you can use this circular loader, you can give colors to the circular loader. Also, yeah, so you can basically give percentages and then see something like this, give percentages and then create a circular loader. I want a simple linear loader with no colors. Like I don't want it to be determinate like this. I just want it to be indeterminate, a simple linear loader. That's it. So in order to use this, all I have to do is copy this, right? Copy this. I will go back to my VS Code, and in app.jsx, I will say that if loading is true, if I'm loading and if the API response has not been received, then I will show the loader. Okay, so if loading is true, then show the loader. Now I won't repeat the same mistake, and I'll make sure that I am importing the loader. So linear progress, I'm importing it. Now let's see what change it has made to our existing application. Okay, so I'll just refresh this and I'll say, is JavaScript worth learning? So you can see this, right? You can see this. I don't like the fact that it is touching the submit button, so I'll give it some margin. So to this loader, I will just say SX and margin maybe 20 pixels, top and bottom. Okay, done. And let's hit submit again. See, now it's perfect, right? It's perfect now. But you can see that the previous response is still here. Whenever we are hitting submit, we are expecting a new response, right? So I don't require the previous response. Whenever I'm loading, the response should actually disappear. So for that, what I'll do is on click, like on submit, this handle submit function will run, correct? So on submit, when I'm submitting, I should be able to clear my previous response. So when I'm submitting again, my response should be empty. Understood? So whenever I hit submit, at first, before calling the API, my response should be empty. That's it. So now when I hit submit, you can see that only the loader is present, right? I'm only getting the loader and I'm getting a new response. So in a while, I will get the response, and then if I hit submit again, the response will disappear. If I want to change my query, I can change my query. Okay, So let's change this query. So let's just say write a poem on React, and let's hit submit. This is the previous answer that it gave me. Now I'm saying write a poem on React, and now let's see what answer it gives us. This is extremely slow actually, but yeah, finally it has written a poem on React. Okay, and I'll make sure to copy paste this and post it on LinkedIn. If you have not connected with me on LinkedIn yet, then please make sure to connect. I'll leave the links in the description box below. But that is it for today. I feel we are done. This is a simple front end component that I created using ChatGPT's colors, and this basically will connect with our Node.js API endpoint. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you found it useful. Of course, you can make this much better with your CSS skills, and I want you to work on that. This is like basic CSS that I've used here, but my main aim was not focusing on CSS. My main aim was to teach you how you can integrate your front end with your back end if you didn't do your homework properly. So basically, this was your homework after watching the previous video. But yeah, hopefully you have understood how to do that now. And if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, the comment section is open. Okay, you can post your comments there. If you liked this tutorial, make sure to post that as well, because it helps the algorithm. And of course, liking the video also helps the algorithm. So make sure that you like this video, so that this video reaches more and more people and they learn how to integrate ChatGPT and make their custom ChatGPT like a bot for them that can answer all their problems. Um, Basically, this is a learning journey that we are going through, right? So make sure to like this video. Also make sure to subscribe, because I'll be coming with a new series wherein we are starting with web development from scratch. I'm truly excited to do this because there's so much that I want to share that I've learned over the past few years. And yeah, that's about it. Like, I'm actually very excited, and I hope that all of you who have subscribed and all of you who are watching this video are equally excited. Even if you know web development, watch this series just as a revision, and it will soon come up on my channel. So make sure that you stay tuned for it. This is all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye.